As we begin this session, I have to say that East has been known not just as Seven Sisters, but also now Ashtalakshmi. And there's a reason for it. The reason is the power of women. The reason is the women power. It's not just about interchange of words, but also about the essence that changes completely with it. A society that has held women with very high esteem, not just today, but for centuries together. Remember, Brahmaputra, a male river, maneuvers around Kamakhya, known for the deity for not just bringing in generations together, but also a pivotal role of bringing the entire epitome of womanhood on the same platform. I welcome all of you. Rita Di, I start with you. How has the power of women changed in Assam? A very straight question. It's on. Yeah.
Thank you, Managya. Changing is not like, that abrupt cutting off spaces, like change this, change that. It is a continuous process. So as you are asking me about how changes
Yes.
by women?
Yes, power of women in Assam has changed.
So everywhere in the world is a very general thing. Power, or if you call empowerment, it starts from the word called self-respect. Whether it is in politics, whether it is anywhere, power always starts from the word self-respect and integrity. And I believe, and the courage to speak the truth. You are a journalist. I know you are a very daring and straightforward voice. I am also a daring voice, because I always try to say what is the truth. So in Assam, if it is not about the women, it is a kind of joint movement of change from the beginning in time of Chandraprabha Saikyani, because that time our male leaders supported the women, their wives, their daughters to be a part of or to lead the society. So, and our generation, let me skip this thing. From our generation, I'll come to the next generation. I have two generations in front of me. Sunita was my student. Now they are my daughter's friend. So I'm sitting with my daughters, and my next generation, the Sunita, and her other ladies from that generation. So three generations are now present here. So our generation is about learning about the right. There are so many feminist movements in the world, but I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist. That is the beginning of change in true sense, when you start identifying yourself as a human being. That is the first identity. Our identity does not depend on only one organ. So it comes from that human identity. So we are coming to our layer. Let me finish it. So our layer. So we have learned to identify our position and how to come out of that and create our own space and our own identity against against the wave or against a system of more rigid patriarchal system. But now this generation, Sunita's generation also have, they have more like that environment to grow. But this new generation, because of the technology, because of the entire world is open for us, we have independent voices, we have our own account, our own wall, where we can speak freely. So this generation, what I have seen, the changes come from the understanding that we have individual voices.
Okay.
The platform is that individuality, but as women, we have learned from nature, or in Assam, from our previous generation, empathy and integrity. And again, they have negated the idea of land of Lahe Lahe, because if you look at Brahmaputra, it is very slow, very calm. This is only the outer layer. When you go diving deeper, current is very strong. So now they are revealing, they have learned that actually what is the core of our land, not Brahmaputra. This land is the land of Lahe Lahe. They are not Lahe Lahe from this generation, is not from Lahe Lahe.
Stuti, I want to ask you, she said that we have an account of our own, and also an account of our own in the bank means a lot. So I want to ask you, has the financial status of women changed, or do we need to speak much more than what meets the eye presently?
Thank you, Manugya, for having me here. For 20 years, the stage has been my vantage point, whether it's as an anchor, a singer and an actor, but my most prominent role has been that of a witness to the changing heartbeat of Assam. I have been a witness to the changing narrative, from the spotlight to the courtyard. The dreams our women weave on looms are no more patterns on a mekhela sador. They're blueprints for startups, higher education and leadership. Like Rita Baido already mentioned, it's a transition from seeking a voice to owning the room. And when you talk about financial independence, obviously we have to, celebrate the stride in rural empowerment, the kind of support they're getting. It was like the financial, obviously, they're beneficiaries, but they've also become breadwinners. It is, financial aid is the start, but financial literacy is the goal. I think, earlier women used to have a bank account. Now they have a bank account and, they are getting the support, the much needed support to, start something on their own. Of course, our government is helping them. But, if I have the permission, we have to talk about the women working in the urban areas as well. I think we face a struggle that is different and much isolated. Yeah, it's not about just being financially stable, but I think we need more. We have flyovers and infrastructure. We have digital connectivity. I think, but we lack the social infrastructure. Urban women, we need like a robust 24 support system. We need affordable child care in your workspaces. We need pink hubs, here in the city, with safe, hygienic toilets and sanitary pad vending machines. We need, reliable late-night transport, for women working in services and obviously in the entertainment sector. I'm from the entertainment business, so I have to say this, women like me and girls, and of course boys as well, who work in the informal sector, we don't have the security. I had to struggle for 20 years to, let people know that the kind of...
How has it changed?
It has changed to a large extent because we saw the struggle back then, and for me, standing behind a microphone or in front of a camera, I always had to negotiate for the respect that every working professional deserves. So, I would like to continue with this because, in the informal sector, we see a lot of our artists, they are just one medical emergency away from financial ruin. So I think, the government can have some policies like a creative sector health card that would, give us the security and also some well-structured scheme, for us to pursue this as a career.
Well, that's a very interesting suggestion to the policy makers of the state too. Drishti, coming to you, give me an idea on just being a performer and then coming into the game of business and also sticking to your roots. How difficult is that in today's time where everything is just on WhatsApp and social media?
Thank you so much for such an interesting question. I think I'd like to answer it more through the narrative of what Rita ma'am and Sutiba has already mentioned to give a better context. So over the course of last 18 years, I have been a first-hand witness of what a single widowed mother goes through in order to live in a very patriarchal society, bring up two kids to an extent that they're able to represent themselves better, are well educated, but are also at par with what the society expects them to be, and so that there is not just better representation, but then they're able to create impact. And that started from my mother. So, like you said, that, in an age where narratives move so fast, especially, in social media, and again, what Rita ma'am had already mentioned, that, the major difference between that generation and the generation that we belong to right now is we certainly have a privilege, and that privilege is, having the privilege of being in the age of digital media that makes the world very interconnected. But in an age where narratives moves very fast, you also need to understand as young people or young women, you always have to take a stand. And if you do not do that, your narrative won't move fast, because it also, it's a changing narrative. So you have to stand for what you believe in. And, it has to continue with the impact of on ground.
Does it cost too much at times for standing what you believe in?
Of course. There are unaccountable costs, right? And this is not capital cost that I'm talking about. It could be mental, it could be certainly the patriarchal pressure that exists in the society still. And these are unaccounted, which is why, in the process of building that right narrative, it is also important that, the right role models are around. Because I've been to a lot of, I've had the privilege of representing on a lot of international forums, etc. But then we keep talking about, whenever we talk about women's voices, we take all the big names. We talk about Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, which is great. It is good to read inspirational stories. We have to get inspired. But if you do not have that relatable story around you, if you do not have that one phone call away that you can actually learn from, it certainly is a big struggle, and especially when you come from a region like Assam or, the larger northeastern regions. So we have to have the right voice.
Akshita, you've been another face of a next generation business as well as media, entertainment, everything. The EQ that we talk about women, has that changed? And I have to appreciate that almost all the women in Assam ensure that they carry their traditional values in their meklas every time they go for a special event or even regularly to office. Has that changed, or do you think that it is still intact?
A very warm good morning to everyone. I think this is a very interesting panel, and after listening to all of it, my narrative is going to be slightly different. Growing up in Assam, we really did not, it's just my opinion again. I think women in Assam were always very empowered. What we were not well represented. I think in today's day and age, we have platforms, and Assam as a whole is being represented now, which is why women are also being represented more. I don't think we had too much of a struggle of, being empowered. Of course, as Sutiba mentioned, as Rita ma'am has mentioned, there were these struggles we had, but we never had to worry about, patriarchy putting us down throughout. I'll just share a small story, and it's my favorite story of women empowerment to share every time I'm asked. It's the story of Dheera Chaliha Hazarika. I'm not sure how many of you know her, but many, many years ago in the 1900s, I think, she saw a dream in a small town called Jorhat. She used to see flights going out of Jorhat, and she saw a dream to be a pilot one day. This was in the 1960s, I believe. She was the first woman pilot of Assam. There are many stories in the Northeast, in the Assam, where women were, pioneers in industries that did not see women representation. Assam media scenario here, they are led by women. Films, like Stuti ma'am has mentioned, the struggles they had, they are changing now because women are coming out in the forefront, not to be represented, but to be leaders there. You know, we were always represented. Now we have leaders coming up. We have filmmakers like Rima Das who are representing women. They are making the films. They're not just actors, or they're not just, you know, they're not just in front of the camera anymore. They're behind it. So I think that way the women in Assam really have always been empowered, and they always make it a point when we get an opportunity to represent our culture. Like today, this is a big moment for all of us in this panel. And what better occasion than to wear our mekhla chadar? Every small moment we get to represent our culture on a national platform, on an international platform, it may just seem like an outfit to everyone. But this is our culture, this is our pride. The moment one sees it on a bigger platform, I think it gives that kind of exposure of something called the Assam silk that's present, that's so delicate and intricate to
Akshita,
the
do you
world.
think that the next generation is doing justice to the mekhlas and the traditional outfits in Assam and out of Assam?
In their way, yes. I'd like to say that, you know, we are holding on to our culture. We are bringing in a little bit of change that connects more with a larger audience. You know, I feel that the power of culture that we have here, it has to be made more available and more connectable to the mainland India, to the international markets, so that they can connect with the culture more. We Assamese people are more emotionally connected to our mekhla chadar. That might not be the case for someone who lives in south of India or in a Delhi. How do we make the mekhla chadar more accessible, more relatable? We have the younger generation, they're coming up with, you know, suits, and they're using the weaves to make various other products that may be more, that may connect more with a larger audience. I think that representation is going to take Assamese weaves to the next level.
Srishti, you're the third generation. Given an understanding, if there is one thing that you would like to change of what you've received from the earlier generation of women, what would that be?
I think I'll stick to the narrative building part.
Okay.
I think we have the voice, and because of the changing environment, of course, I think the narrative, of course, I'll stick to that.
And how do you see the social media evolution impacting your growth?
Growth is it acts as a catalyst because of, the multiple platforms that are available, but one also has to be very strategic in today's day and time. Would also like to mention what Sunita ma'am had already previously mentioned, right? The world is one in today's day and time, and in order to be relatable, also what Akshita has mentioned previously, I think we also need to ensure that that representation, that voice, comes as a culmination as the nation, because again, Assam and or the wider northeastern region also has the strategy of being strategic when it comes to the global south, right? And we need to realize that.
Okay. So they give me an idea on, it's not just about being weavers or being workers in tea gardens because they have the nimble fingers that are perfect for plucking tea leaves. How has the evolution taken on from a matriarchal society to a stronger collaborated society?
I don't think, in Assam, I beg your pardon, you asked can I get your question again?
I'm asking that, how do you see the role of women changing? And of course, the new professions and avenues that are coming up. Even for you, being paid at par for a woman, for a male presenter, I think that has been a battle. Has that battle changed?
Yet it has actually, like I already mentioned in my opening remark. We have indeed.
Do you think that the government policies, infrastructure schemes are doing justice to women?
When you look at the rural women, yes, I think to a large extent they're getting the much needed help, to come out of, their daily chores and, do their own work and start business, because they're getting the support of the seed capital by the government. We have the, Lakpoti Baidos. We have, obviously, again, the support for girl education. I think the Nijut Moina, if I'm not mistaken, where the government is encouraging, every girl child to be educated and pursue higher degrees and not go for marriages, And in here, when you talk about, evolving, that pay parity. Obviously, I told you about the struggle that we used to have with then, pay parity. We did not used to...
pay parity this time. She's going to address it very seriously. Rita Di, give me an idea. Being the head of director of National Book Trust and the books, as well as books on women or Assam and Northeast, do you see that role and the present times any better?
But it is always improved. So I don't want to discuss about that.
Okay.
So I have to, as we don't have much time, so I want to clear my position as the senior generation. So our generation, I have already told you that we have to face a very stronger structure of patriarchy. So now we have learned, because we have learned from the net, from that the boon technology has given us from the new generation, that it is my life. So I have many roles to play, mother, daughter, wife, so many roles. But at the end, I'm an individual. I have to come back to myself, completing my duties. So when I come back, I'm coming back to myself, it means the real me. The real me doesn't have any boundary imposed by the society like Mekhela Chador. So I'm trying to break all the binaries. I wear Mekhela Chador, but not under any kind of compulsion. So I'm not trying to tell them this. This is my opinion, that we have some mental boundary set by our senior generation or the system. Like Mekhela has this span. You can walk, or you open your leg in a particular length. So I want to break all those boundaries, mental boundaries, come out of this, because we have to earn sovereignty as individual, male, female, both. So she is there, she is working on financial sovereignty, right? So finance.
But not wearing Mekhela Chador is what
I always wear Mekhela Chador, but I want to say, by wearing sari today, that we have to break all the mental barriers and the binaries created by the generation, because male, they don't have those mental boundaries. So financial independence, cultural independence, cultural leadership, language leadership, yes, they have told their truth. New generation, they're learning to respect their attire, their culture.
But your generation has taught them to respect that, na? That's how they learn.
They
you
have
have to take
learned,
pride in doing
they
that.
They have learned from us. They have learned from us. But now it is my time. So I am not telling them to follow now. But when their role will be over, then they will learn how to come back to themselves.
Will that not be too late, Akshata? Do you agree to that?
No, when they will decide, when they will grow up, they will be mother, then the children will grow up. They have to come to themselves. Then they will know what to do. I am not imposing anything. So I am just breaking all the binaries and the patterns. And now I am now trying to come back to myself.
But are we not losing the cultural essence in just trying to break the boundaries or the barriers? Do you agree to that, Akshata?
I think that's where the emotional intelligence and the intellectual intelligence comes into play. When we just do it intellectually, we might lose the essence.
Okay.
But as women, because we have a little higher EQ, we find the right balance and, take it forward from there.
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. But my opinion is this. What I have learned at the end stage of my life, that you have to be sovereign from all sides. If you have to respect your culture, you have to wear,
Okay.
but not under any kind of compulsion. I have to show off. Because if I create an international identity, people will look at me, oh, she's from Assam, she is an Assamese. Okay. And fighting like, Mary Kom or Borgohai or anyone.
But when we travel out of, I
Yeah.
take it from here
Yeah.
that in India it's Assam, but when you move out of India, out of your country boundaries,
Yeah.
it's only the India tag and the Bharat tag that you carry with yourself. Thank you so much, all the beautiful ladies in Mekla Chador today morning, for joining us in this session.
So
and the
but
women
yes,
power continues to get stronger in
I
Assam.
appreciate you. I congratulate you for, carrying forward our culture. But don't look at me now. You will realize when you grow up, when your children will leave you, you will have an emptiness. You have to come back to yourself. Then you will realize what I have told today, why I want to break binaries and all the mental, limitations.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so
you,
much, everyone. You were wonderful.
Best of luck, all my children. Best of luck. Be empowered. Be independent. Be sovereign. Lead the society with empathy, humanity, integrity, and self-respect.
That's
Thank you.
words of wisdom from Rita Di. Thank you so much for this.